Off the bat, I am a Christian woman, and one of my main beliefs is that God and sex are not mutually exclusive. That you do not have to abandon God to have sex, and you don't have to abandon sex to have God. I know this is a very controversial thing to say, and I plan to get more in depth on why I believe this. In the meantime, I just wanted to share my story, my testimony, and I look forward to hearing from you about how saving yourself for marriage went blissfully right, how saving yourself went terribly wrong, anything in between. I was told in church that if I saved myself and was a good girl, that I would live happily ever after. That is not what happened to me, and that's not what happens to a lot of Christians that I know. That said, here is the story of when I lost my virginity. It wasn't until I was 12 that a girlfriend of mine invited me to her youth group at a born-again Christian church. This was the first time I ever heard sex addressed in church or even in a public setting. I was 12, so I was honestly trying to wean myself off of playing with Barbies and just impatiently waiting for my period. So when the pastor that I trusted stood on the altar and said, "This thing that you've been praying to your bedside your whole life cares about you so much, cares about your dreams, your ambitions, cares if you have sex or do drugs or if you're gay," I got really excited by these concepts. It made me feel like the master of the universe cares about me. I got so passionate about this idea that I myself organized the chastity ceremony at my church at 15. Time moves on, I'm 19, I still haven't been kissed, so chastity is going great. At 19, I moved to LA by myself. Mind you, I'm a very sexual being. I felt ready to have sex before the moment I put on my chastity ring. So by 21, it is just getting harder and harder. I don't have a boyfriend and we're making out, it's getting harder. I am alone, just dude. Even if I fall in love with someone tomorrow, we have to court for a couple years, we have to get engaged, plan a wedding. When am I gonna have sex? I'm gonna die. I'm a very spontaneous person, but I'm not reckless. I like researching things, seeing what I'm getting myself into, and then make a choice. So as virginity is getting harder and harder for me physically, I'm like, okay, I can keep doing this. I just need more tangible proof. I need more evidence that this is what God needs for me to do to be a good Christian girl. The first thing I do is reach out to married friends in church. I know people make it to the altar, but the specific girls I talked to had slept with people before they were married. And they all said the same thing. They said, I wish I could have saved myself for Brad. I could have given my whole body to him and it would have been so amazing. Let me tell you, as a 21-year-old girl dying to have sex, that wasn't helping. Because all I was hearing was, you hypothetically may have been happier if you saved yourself for Brad, but you got to have sex before you were married. And you're still married and you haven't been struck by lightning. So that's not gonna work. So the next thing I do is look at the Bible, the text that I've been relying on since I was 15. I know there are examples of monogamous husband and wife relationships in the Bible. However, there are also godly men like David, who had 18 wives and concubines, and Solomon, who was wild man, and he had hundreds of wives and hundreds of concubines. And I'm like, those are just women they wanted to bang. And then I go into poorer figures in the Bible, like Jacob, and he is married to Leah, but he's not in love with her, so he's tilling the field, trying to earn Rachel. He finally marries her, and he's going and having sex back and forth between both of them. I'm like, okay, Bible's not helping. Next thing. The last thing I do is go to allegory, and I'm sure a lot of you in Christian church have heard this story before. Once upon a time, it's a girl's wedding day. She's standing on the altar with the man of her dreams. The pastor is reading the vows, and as he's doing so, men are standing up from the pews and lining up behind her husband one by one. Her groom looks at her and is like, "Babe, who are all these guys?" And she is crying, and she has to say, "I am so sorry, but these are the men that I gave myself to before I knew you. I wish I had a full heart to give you, but I don't." Again, dying to have sex, this story was not helping. I know sex can be a very emotional, important thing in life, but I was also having a really hard time believing that everyone I would share myself with would irrevocably have a piece of myself, to the point that I was being dwindled down to less and less and less. I was like, are you guys sure? I don't know if I'm buying this story anymore. Despite all of this, I'm still not throwing in the towel on my virginity. I'm just at a point where I'm like, God, I am looking in every direction. I am trying every avenue. Please open the clouds, send the love of my life, give me a dream, shout it from the rooftop, do something. I am losing it, and I'm trying. I'm really begging you for something here. So I'm begging for this sign, and I go on a first date with this guy that I met on MySpace. And he's a babe. He's got thrash t-shirt and leather jacket. And out of the blue, he's like, "Do you want to hear a crazy story?" And I'm like, yeah, I love crazy stories. So he goes, "My roommate's Christian. He's 22, saving himself for marriage. Last night, he brings home this cute blonde girl, comes out this morning and is like, I'm not a virgin anymore." I remember this so vividly because I looked at him, not in a prayerful way, not to God, just to myself. I was like, I'm gonna have sex with this dude. Because I had tried everything. I was begging for a sign. If there was any virgin left my age, it was this guy, and he lost his virginity last night. So a couple nights later, we haven't even kissed, and I'm just like, get a condom, let's do this. And I gave it away. I wanted to give it away because abstinence had been something that started plaguing me. I thought about sex constantly. I was like, a penis, a guy. I could not even concentrate. It was too much. And I just wanted to be normal. Not even normal. I wanted to be a good Christian woman, but I didn't want to be plagued by this thought anymore. And it did. It felt like a plague. So my plan was, get rid of your virginity, move on with your life. But this guy, to my surprise, starts really pursuing me. The whole time we're dating, we don't stop having sex, and it is really messing with my head. I'm feeling so much shame and guilt, and I really couldn't discern whether it was inside, if it was God convicting me of this sin, or if it was these external voices I had heard that said, you have to save yourself, you have to feel guilty. Anyway, he's not ready to get married, but he really wants to take our relationship to the next level. He wants to move in together. And I told him, I'm on the worship team, I am in church, I'm not allowed to live with you if we're not married. So he's a sweetheart, and he puts a ring on my finger, and we get married. Getting married didn't feel right. I didn't feel all of the spark and energy that you see in the movies or that you read about in novels. It was a lot of anxiety and foggy confusion. I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm supposed to. I have to, I guess. Want to have sex with this guy. We have to get married. Fast forward, we're married for about 1.5 years, and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and he shakes me awake in the middle of the night. He's like, Brenda. While we were dating, he was going on tour with big bands doing behind-the-scenes documentaries. So he goes, I didn't tell you the truth about tour. And I'm like, oh my God, what? And he says, I was doing a lot of drugs on tour. I'm like, okay. And then the real truth comes out, that he was cheating on me while he was on tour. I really love and appreciate honesty in my partners, obviously, but in this case, it really felt like he was carrying this bag of bricks, and then one night he woke up and was like, I don't want to carry this anymore, you carry it. And then I was just supposed to wake up in the morning and like be grateful the truth was out. But I was like, you want me to carry this weight of this thing that you did to me? I can't do it. I don't know how. I'm really going to resent if anyone says, well, if you had saved yourself to the day you were married, it wouldn't have happened to you. Screw that, because I know a lot of people, men and women, who saved themselves to the date of their wedding and they got cheated on or they had an affair. You know of huge pastors that are outed for having gay affairs. Life is just complicated. Humanity is complicated. When you're in a relationship, it's two people coming together. So you can be as pure and God-abiding as you want. Your partner can still break your heart. You can still get hurt. I'm so grateful, really, to have this trauma because it really gave me permission to explore my own self, to figure out what I genuinely believe when I read the Bible, when I talk to other people, when I pray in the privacy of my own home, what messages I'm receiving about my personal sexuality, my personal beliefs, my ideas about who I am as a woman in 2018. In conclusion, I wanted to share my story to open up a dialogue with other people, to find people of like minds that have had experiences for better and worse, and hopefully have a very kind, not YouTube abusive sort of talk about what we believe on this subject as modern day Christians living in 2018. I'm just grateful that you watched. Thank you.